Mr. President, believe me, I did not imagine that you would grant me this interview, since I am Venezuelan, that is, from a country that has no political interests with you. I confess that I was struck not only by your interest in the interview, but also by the perspective that you expressed in your communication. Thank you, Mr. President. I am flattered by your comment, but let's get to the point. Do you think Mr. Abbas will resign from his post? I will answer your question in the following terms. Mr. Abbas should out of shame not only tender his resignation, but come to where I am and hand over the presidency. And does he know where you are? Of course, I have been in written contact with the current Palestinian foreign minister, whom I consider to be an honest and sincere man, and that is why I contacted him, in order to build a diplomatic bridge between Mr. Abbas and myself. And why do you think Mr. Abbas is silent? Mr. Abbas is wrong, and that is regrettable. So much so that I explained to the minister how inconvenient it is for the internal community, I mean the people of Palestine, that he is stubbornly holding on to the presidency, and the only thing he will achieve is that the people will rise up against him and drive him out of the power he holds. And what do you think has been the main failure of Mr. Abbas's government? I will tell you with the utmost sincerity. It has failed because it has not succeeded in obtaining, or rather in recovering, not even 1 square centimeter of land that we had before the 14th of November 1947. And I ask you, Mr. President Ali Mohammed, is there a written obligation on Mr. Abbas to recover the total territory you are talking about? Yes. There is such an obligation in writing, and it is in the Palestinian National Charter in Article 2, which says, and I quote, Palestine, with the borders it had before the 14th of November 1947, Palestine, with the borders it had during the British Mandate, is an indivisible territorial unit. Tell me, Mr. Journalist, if my accusation against Mr. Abbas was reckless, and the late leader Yasser Arafat was not responsible for this? I believe, and I fear I am not mistaken, that our leader was the victim of deceit and intrigue that led him to make mistakes that could have been corrected but were not, and that responsibility lies with Mr. Abbas. If you were offered what Mr. Arafat was offered, would you accept it? I would not accept it, and I am honest with you, because these mistakes have led to our historical enemy gaining ground, and within that ground, who will bring back the lives of thousands of Palestinians who have died thanks to the lack of action, that lack of willingness that has led them into the realm of negligence. And you don't think that Yasser Arafat's sudden death was due to the fact that he did not agree with the two-state policy? I cannot answer that, but I suspect that there was a very dark plot in Arafat's death. If you achieve your objective and realize your position as president of the Palestinian National Authority, you will order an investigation into Arafat's death. Of course I will order it by calling in the best criminal investigators and pathologists, so that the cause of his death can be established beyond any doubt. Of the current government that you have dismissed, whom would you ratify? Minister Ahmed Malki, as I consider him to be a very competent man in his diplomatic field, and we need officials with a diplomatic career, not career diplomats. Another issue, Mr. President, concerns the Hamas organization, which you have ordered to be disbanded. Of course, and I thank you for your question. We are not going to defeat an enemy that is armed to the teeth with arrows, spears and stones. I say this as an example to measure it against what our adversary has. We need a strong and cohesive army with a strong command that exercises real leadership. The Islamic State of Palestine requires a force of at least 1 million men, heavy, medium and light weapons, as well as a strong and powerful air force. So why do we currently have an organization that is not an army, completely divorced from the executive? For that reason and no other I ordered its disbandment. And can they sell those weapons to you? I have at least 20 quotations on my desk to buy them. Because we are talking about the defense of a nation, and the security of the nation is not only defensible with speeches, but with concrete actions. From which country, for example, would you buy arms for the Palestinian army? We would mainly buy from Brazil, unless better offers are made. And the money? We are in the world of payment facilities. Mr. President, as a last question, what will be the main claim if you go to the United Nations and if the United States grants you a visa? I will start with the last one. The United States cannot refuse to allow a head of state to travel to the United Nations headquarters, because it is the host country, not the country that owns the United Nations, on the one hand, and on the other hand, our position is found in Article 2 of the Palestinian National Charter, which I will repeat. Palestine, with the borders it had during the British Mandate, is an indivisible territorial unit. This is measured in approximately 25,000 square kilometers of territory, with our borders with Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, and the Mediterranean Sea, with the inherent rights to the continental shelf. Thank you, Mr. President. Listening friends, we have